Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Help One Save One broadcast. My name is Quandra Spades, and I'm here tonight with my co-host, Patrick Brutus. We represent Help One Save One, and you're watching a live interaction show here on CAN TV. If you want to know more about Help One Save One, here is our information. Help One Save One email address is helponesaveone@hotmail.com. That is our telephone number, as well as our Facebook, Help One Save One. Thank you for joining us, and we would like to encourage all of you to call in. If you have questions and comments, you can dial in at 738-1060. Help One Save One is a community-inspired organization. One of our goals and main objectives is to educate and empower the community with information designed to inform and enlighten. Last week, we discussed the Kerner Commission report and how this report was designed to investigate race relations in the United States during the riots of 1960s. And if you didn't see it, please check us out. It was a very good show. You can check us out on YouTube. The Kerner report will be the foundation to lay the groundwork to support the topics we will be discussing over the next several weeks. It is also our intent to create a progressive series of informative discussions regarding our journeys as African American people by examining where we once were, where we want to be, and where we are today. With that being said, I would like to turn it over to Patrick Brutus, who's going to introduce our guest.
Good afternoon, good evening, Chicago. Good afternoon, good evening. We're happy to have you, Greg.
Yes,
Your
sir.
reputation precedes us here today. We're excited about this interview and an opportunity to talk to you today about the issues that affect black people in Chicago.
Absolutely. I'm glad and honored to be here with both of you all. Thanks for the invitation, and here we go.
Like Quandra said, let's get into it. So, Greg, what prompted today's topic of PTSD amongst African Americans was an article that we read in the Chicago Tribune last year that was dated in March 2017 that informed readers about the high rates of experienced by black women in our neighborhoods, the high rates of PTSD. Imagine all the contributing factors that lead to PTSD: violence, poverty, disinvestment, extremely high unemployment, and all of those issues and all of those contributing factors being normalized. Now, Mr. Sain, as a motivational speaker and talk show host, you've had the opportunity to not only witness firsthand many of our children in schools who suffer from these issues daily, but also counsel and advise them in person or via your talk show. So it's safe to say that you, sir, know the heartbeat of Black Chicago. So from that vantage point, Greg, please tell us your observations about what you've seen and heard regarding serious trauma being experienced by those you talk to.
I would say starting out the gate, man, when white people catch a cold, black people get pneumonia. And so all of the negative things that affect black people, poor people, tend to be more devastating. Let's look at poverty. Let's look at injustice. Let's look at racism, structural, period,
and systemic.
And
right.
systemic. Now, I do want to talk about the self-infliction piece at the end, but the stress disorders that we're talking about, hey man, all the way from slavery. That's why reparation, we haven't been repaired. From the beginning of our sojourn here in America, we have not been repaired properly. I mean, look, we've been emotionally messed up from day one. And so we get emotionally, we continue this roller coaster because we get symbolic stuff, and that's enough for us to just continue to suffer. Do you think the stress factors left? Maybe for a few days when the Black Panther came, we were happy, but we forgot about all our problems. You think when Barack Obama became the president, 8 years, we forgot about our problems? Hell, them problems are still there. And so and I'm going to get right to that. I'm answering it like this. After the Black Panther, then we get the acrimony, whatever you call it. What's the name of the movie?
It's Acrimony, starring
Yeah,
Taraji P.
so you take you away from that positive things to a scorned black woman. So look, 44,000. I mean, the income. They put in there about the income in certain places, like in Oakland.
Right.
And then 72% for the city of Chicago. Here, $44,000. Meaning, bro, there's a direct correlation of poverty with disease. The stress is real. Trying to worry about how you gonna pay your bill, how you gonna live, living in areas that are absolutely unhealthy, trauma centers, lack of services. All that stuff relates to stress.
Well, actually, we have a caller. Go ahead, caller, with your comment or question.
Yes, good evening. Great show. I just want to say this. You know, there's more poor white people than there are black people. There's as many poor Hispanic as there are black people. And yet, they seem to get more because they want more. You know, I mean, they work for it. So I think it's time to stop blaming the white man and say this. You know, it's 50-50 how your kids are going to turn out. When the father's not there, it's 25%.
That's great, caller. What's your question?
Okay, my question is this. Isn't it time that all people, all poor people or that don't have much, like they say, pull up by the bootstrings and start helping themselves instead of always talking about, I'm Mexican American. Hey, I didn't have an easy journey. I fought in Vietnam with my black brothers and my four white people. So no, I want to tell you, ask this. Don't you think it's about time that everybody can start helping themselves a little so that it doesn't bother anybody else?
Thank you for your question.
Can I quickly just respond?
Absolutely.
If you ain't got no damn shoestrings, you can't pull no boots up. And when you came back, black folks from Vietnam, they still was discriminated here in America. So don't give me that crap, but I get it. We should be doing something for ourselves. We shouldn't be blaming white folks, but let's keep it real. This society is two different nations. You talked about the Kerner Commission report. That's real, but we shouldn't use that as an excuse because we still have had messengers and we've had leaders, we've had spokespersons who have tried to direct us, like Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to do for self. But we still have a system that black folks pay taxes, black people can't get loans, black people be nervous just to go buy a car. You waiting on the man to come back with the damn credit report. And you typically, it's because of your zip code. Yeah, some bad spending, but hey sir, thank you.
Well, you know what? I just wanted to tee it up because I think this really is a very interesting topic and that we're discussing. Because based on my research, I realized there are different variations of post-traumatic stress syndrome and the way it affects our African American community. So we mentioned the Kerner Commission report. In the report, it discusses how poverty, unemployment, inadequate programs create stress levels in African American communities and how that helped to cause high racial tensions. And post-traumatic stress syndromes today can be narrowed down to what we decided to narrow down to 3 topics we felt mostly affects the African American community. One is the link between racism and post-traumatic stress syndrome. The 2 is post-traumatic slave syndrome, or PTSS. And the 3rd one is how post-traumatic slave disorder, or PTSD, impacts the black community. And so with that, I kind of wanted to tee up this question for you. So post-traumatic stress disorder, defined as a condition of persistent mental and emotional stress occurring as a result of injury or severe psychological shock, symptoms including but not limited to mild to severe depression symptoms, sleep deprivation, and anxiety. The diagnosis conjures up images of hollow-eyed combat veterans, terrified rape victims, but new research indicates that racism can be just as devastating as gunfire or sexual assault. So my question is, do you believe that racism can cause PTSD?
Ask the average black man to get pulled over by a police. Do they nervous? Their blood pressure go up.
And with that, we have a caller. Oh, hello, caller. What is your question or comment?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. How y'all doing this evening?
We're wonderful. Thanks for
Oh,
asking.
you look beautiful on that TV. God bless you all. God bless us all. I want to talk to you in the middle. I don't know what your name is, sir, but I've been calling this show Can TV for almost a year. Ain't nothing prejudiced about nothing, sir. When a white person gets a cold, we get pneumonia, you get pneumonia, we all get sick. This prejudice has got to stop. This slavery, I'm Italian. We've all been slaves at one time or another. I've been married 29 years. That's about as close to slavery as you're going to get. But that's a happy slavery, you understand? We got to love more each other. And respect can you hear me?
Yes, we're listening.
I can hear you loud and clear, and I want you to hear me too when you finish.
There you go. I respect you, and you respect me. I ain't got one. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. I ain't got one speck of prejudice in me. It don't matter, because when you cut, we all bleed the same color blood. Might be A or B, different kind of blood, but we're all the same. God created us all. We got to put all that we all suffered. When you guys suffered back to Martin Luther King Day, I suffered. I was born in the 50s. I cry every day for you. There was nothing I could do. I was only 5 years old. Please, I feel so bad, but you got to give the white people a chance. When you got poverty, we got poverty. The Mexicans got poverty. The Polacks got poverty. We all got poverty. You know why we got poverty, Mr. Man in the middle? Because the money's here in the government, and they don't want to let it go.
Thank you for your call. Thank you for your call.
After 50 years of Dr. Martin Luther King, black people have regressed. So when you bring that up, you sound like the white man that lived next door to say, my best friend is black. But I get your point, but unfortunately, we still live in a society that is two different societies. One black, one white, one rich, one poor, and unequal. Your heart is good, and I commend you for that, but unfortunately, sir, discrimination is real, and black folks can never be racist. You gotta have power, and I sure ain't denying white folks anything, because you gotta be in position of power.
I just think before we get back to Kwanju's question, I think it's a very good question that will help shape the rest of our program. I want to just educate the caller. Please understand, there is no racism intent here. We're talking about this from a black perspective, and just want to give you some numbers as to why that there are these kinds of feelings as to why we're having this conversation. Unemployment, the employment rate for black people in Chicago is 51.2%. For whites, it is 63.2%. The lowest homeownership percentage, blacks are at 34.5%, whites are at 53.5%. The average income for blacks in Chicago is $30,000, whites $70,000. So you can understand there's a big gap between the haves and have-nots. It does fall along racial lines, and we're simply here today to talk about this from a vantage point of being an African American in Chicago. Now we have another caller, but we want to go back to the question at hand, or we want to move on. But let's take the call. Let's
take the call.
Caller, what's your question?
Yes, and good evening. And good show. I mean, good show.
Thank you.
I remember the man. I can't remember his name with the glasses on.
Gregory Sane.
Yes. Well, listen, you know what? I am a black man. I travel everywhere in the city of Chicago. I don't worry about a police officer stopping me. I'm not in there doing anything illegal. I'm not smoking nothing. I ain't carrying anything. So, I mean, I don't have no fear of doing anything. And I probably would say that about all three of y'all. If you're not doing nothing, what is to be fearful for? But the ones normally is fearful is the people got a warrant or something, or got something in the car that they don't need to have. have, then I can understand them being fearful. But maybe I'm just one of those blessed ones. I don't fear anything of that nature because I don't do anything. And that was very interesting what you gave, the percentage of people with income. Well, it's very hard with $30,000 a year. Matter of fact, I know they really, you got to be struggling. You got to be struggling with $30,000, especially in the city of Chicago. And $70,000 is not that much better. But again, I believe this, having a little something is better to have nothing at all. And if you don't have nothing, why in the heck are you out there doing things? Why are you standing on the corner?
Caller,
you need to be trying to figure some way to get some money.
Thank you for your comment. We'll take that under advisement.
You know what's
Thank you.
interesting?
Thank you for calling.
At one time, O.J. Simpson used to feel the same way. And Clarence Thomas. Now, maybe you some kin to Clarence Thomas, and you ain't got to worry about that. But let me tell you something. Right now, ask Tiger Woods, do he get nervous now when he get pulled over? Used to be a point when he was getting that green jacket and more green money that it didn't matter. But reality, all you need is a reality check. You are right. Now, he is right that if you're not doing anything, but a lot of people, Sandra Bland wasn't doing anything wrong. And a lot of people, bro, I'm sorry, that's incorrect, that get pulled over, and it's strictly because of the color of their skin and the mentality of that particular officer that day that pulled them over. And they have a right to be nervous, even with all of the stuff they need to have to present.
I just wanted to add to the statistics that Patrick pointed out. One study of racial discrimination across 3 U.S. ethnic minority groups found that African Americans experience significantly more instances of discrimination than either Asian or Hispanics. Non-Hispanic whites experience the least discrimination, whereas it's 11% for whites versus 81% for blacks. Furthermore, those African Americans who experienced the most racism were significantly more likely to experience symptoms of PTSD as well.
Wow.
Are you surprised by these stats?
No, I'm not at all. And that's why what Patrick was saying and what you have quoted, it falls in line to reality. But it goes back to, I think, what we both firmly, all of us believe. Yeah, we got some issues with our own family structure and all of those dynamics. We could never ever just continue to be derelict in our duties as men, black men, to do what we need to do for ourselves. But we have to know and have to understand, bro, that there's some real serious barriers and they continue to fall on us.
Well, I'm sorry to cut in. How do you, based on what I just described, how do you think these kind of racial stressors play in the work or school environment with our children? And what?
Well, once again, you look at the testing. You know, you look at things that young people are not familiar with. Some are resilient. They come from, you know, they just strong. But others, they are distracted by, so this whole piece on low self-esteem, that's something that's being conditioned. And so the low self-esteem mentality is something ongoing, and that's what, you know, what we call structural racism. And so it's in every fabric. But we should not, again, use it as an excuse. It's just a reality check that we still have to fight against that and our own selves.
With that, we have another caller. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, I called earlier, and the guy in the middle acted like I was ignorant. Let me tell you something.
Well, hold on, sir. Hold on.
Hold on.
Thank you for the call. We're not going to accept that on our live show. Thank you for your call. Please submit your questions and via our email address. Thank you.
I love it, but I do love it when you got, see, people, they're accustomed to going along to get along, sugarcoating, scratching where you don't itch. No, we got to call this what it really is. There's no hatred. There's no, this love. The truth is love. You can't handle it, then turn your channel.
Okay, great. Did you have
Absolutely. Okay, let's try to regroup from that. You know, beyond, Greg, what you've experienced, you know, in your activities, counseling and guiding and mentoring and motivating young people, Experts have traced the effects of untreated PTSD in neighborhoods, mainly African American communities, that are already struggling with high unemployment, poverty, and the devastating impact of the war on drugs. Ironically, they found that women are twice as likely as men to experience and develop PTSD. They are also more likely to show signs of anxiety and depression, and to avoid places that remind them of the trauma that they experience. In children, PTSD symptoms can sometimes be misdiagnosed as attention deficit hyperactive disorder. You know, they're always misdiagnosing our children.
Yes.
That would be ADHD. Though most people with post-traumatic stress are not violent, men with PTSD are most likely to have trouble controlling their anger, which we see also in the neighborhoods with, you know, uncontrollable acts of rage and violence that are being manifested by our black men. So quickly, in the last 5 minutes of the show, we'll have a 2-minute wrap-up with Quandra. Would you agree or disagree that neglecting PTSD as a public health concern could potentially create unsafe neighborhoods where there's large public safety concerns?
Absolutely.
Or has it already?
Look, it works right with the criminal justice system. The over incarceration of black men. They come out of the joint. You don't think they nervous? You don't think they stressful? Oh, sure. They don't give you much, a couple of dollars, and then you got to go, don't know who at home. If somebody gonna let you in, you not stressed? Yeah, it does. And we should, I mean, they have people living like they're in a third world country. When you can't get a job, you got a stripe on your back. You're not nervous, you're not angry. Heck yeah, you're going to be nervous and you're going to be angry. So let's just keep it real. Put this same condition on other people and I guarantee you,
you'll see similar results.
You'll see the same results.
Yeah, and the thing is with the other side being law enforcement, for them it's also normalized for them to mistreat us in that way, not knowing that there are sensibilities that black men face in Chicago due to all these stressors. And so it becomes one aspect of them normalizing their behavior against us, which then, like you said, Greg, causes extreme stress, which is the reason why we're here today, Quandra, to talk about the post-traumatic stress in our neighborhoods, in our communities.
Absolutely. And just to turn it a little bit to our second point that we mentioned as a variation of post-traumatic stress, post-traumatic slave syndrome was coined by Dr. Joy DeGruy. That's her name? Yes. Okay, great. 25 years ago to help explain the consequences of multi-generational oppression from centuries of chattel slavery, a form of slavery which was predicated on the belief that African Americans were inherently and genetically inferior to whites, and institutionalized racism, and to identify the resulting adaptive survival behaviors in African American communities throughout the United States and the African diaspora. So with that, I know that's a mouthful. I just want to ask the question and maybe share with our viewers on how, after slavery was abolished and 400 plus years later, the trauma of slavery continues and how it's affecting our children and us as a people.
Mr. Jim Crow, say no more. I mean, you know, Mr. Jim, the sharecroppers, all of that stuff, once you trying to get up and you still have all of these barriers, you know, you just can't go and buy a home. You got to go through so much. So, hey, look, again, these are not excuses. These are realities statistically, and the data speaks for themselves. But it does not excuse us from not going to do what we need to do for ourselves and our family as black folks, whatever your nationality and your ethnicity is. We should all have more pride, more respect, more self-respect for each other. But keep it real, we have been behind the 8 ball.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
And look at the 8 ball. Absolutely. Who knocks them around? The white ball.
Well, based on everything we said today, do you feel that there's a lack of PTSD support programs in our community?
Oh, they closed down the mental institution. They helped, and all of it worked hand in hand. Hell, with all the problems. Look, most of the people that they pull over that's going off, that's stressed out, they need counseling. They need help. Oh, you got to wrap it up.
I'm sorry, callers. I know this is a very good show. Thank you so much for our guests. We would like to once again thank our guests and our viewers for joining us today. This, in my opinion, was a very interesting topic. Next week, we will be discussing education. So if you have any additional questions or comments, please visit us on Facebook or email us at helponesave1@hotmail.com. Also, we'll be listing a recommended list of books on our Facebook page. If you have any recommendations, you can please also share that with us. Once again, it was such a pleasure speaking with you today.
And I hope you guys will be back next week.
Absolutely. Did you have anything?
Oh no, love you all, and nothing but love here for us, self, and humanity as a whole. Thank you all.
Yep.
You all are excellent hosts.
Thanks, Mr. Stain. Thank you for joining us today on Help One Save One.
All right. Thank you.